Okay, thank you very much for coming, everybody. This is ePortfolio Tips and Tricks. I'm Paul Carter, another Avenue Learn IT to Teach webinar. I always like to start with, and it's important too, our land acknowledgement. New Language Solutions is based in Ottawa, Ontario. We acknowledge that our head office is on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. I'd like to point out that I'm coming to you from Salt Spring Island in British Columbia. So I'm lucky to live and work on the traditional and unceded territory of the Hul'qumi'num and Tsinchosan speaking people. We do have people all across Canada, so we like to honor the stewardship of the many Indigenous peoples who've resided on these lands since time immemorial. So thank you all for coming today. I'll ask everyone, let's turn off these microphones. There we go. Excellent. All right. So today's session, a quick outline here, a little introductions, some help with Avenue. There's a needs assessment. We'll do a quick poll, and then we're going to talk about the binder first, then the ePortfolio, and then tagging, auto collection through tagging. And then we'll look at the activity types that support auto collection. So those are forum, feedback, questionnaire, H5P, SCORM, and quiz. The two latest additions are the feedback and questionnaire activity types, and we are working on adding more over time, but it takes a little while to build things on the back end to make these auto collections work. So at the end of that, we'll take a look at editing artifacts in the ePortfolio and some questions about after the fact, and then Q&A if there's time at the end. This is me. I've done a few different things, so I'm happy to be here talking to you today. Help with Avenue is where I always like to start. I think it's really important to remind everyone that there is help with Avenue. LearnIT2Teach.ca is our public portal. That looks like this. And on LearnIT2Teach.ca, I can put that into the chat as well. There we go. At LearnIT2Teach.ca, you'll find the Avenue support page. And here there are documents and files for Avenue Stage 2, Stage 3, and more help. Stage 2 and Stage 3 are just what they sound like. A lot of the documents from Stage 2 and 3 are here on the public portal where you can access them. Avenue More Help has extra files that are not included in the training. So I always like to remind teachers of these pages. Avenue More Help is a great one. On this page, you'll find a whole section on ePortfolio files. This is also in the Stage 2 documents page on Avenue Stage 2 support. And all throughout the session, we're going to talk about tagging activities. So that's here. We're also going to talk about editing artifacts. So that one's here. And then tagging for auto collection after a quiz or assignment is complete. So that one's there as well. These are great files. And when we post the video on YouTube, I'll do a forum post and I'll share these files with you in particular because we'll talk about these today. Maybe just to jump right into it, one of the big announcements that's coming up is that we're going to be adding the ePortfolio additional info settings to the activity types that can be auto-collected. And that will mean you'll be able to add the skill, the competency area, and the CLB level right when you set up the activity. So you won't have to do that after the fact. And at this point, I'd like to sort of tip my hat to the team that built the Avenue ePortfolio. I'd just like to remind people that it's an in-house solution that we developed because we saw a need. There wasn't a pre-existing out-of-the-package ePortfolio that suited Link teachers in Canada using Avenue. So we have a team that actually built this thing from scratch. There was a time a couple of years back when it didn't have as many features as it does now. And that just kind of shows you that over time we're adding to this, developing more, creating more activity types that can be auto-collected. So coming soon, this will be added to the actual settings in the activities, so you can set things up in advance. So that's very exciting. We'll also be looking at uploading artifacts today, so there's a document for that as well. So I'm going to close those tabs now, and I'll share those in the forum post. Now, speaking of forum posts, I just want to finish on LearnIT2Teach.ca. Down in the bottom corner here, you'll find the live help widget. That's where on weekdays you can find a live help operator or a LearnIT2Teach mentor who can help you in real time. And there's some exciting changes coming soon. This will be embedded directly into Teachers Avenue courses. So they'll be able to access this widget not by going to the public portal, but by being in their class, a little tab on the side. So that's quite exciting. More news on that to come. Okay, so still talking about help with Avenue, one other great place to go is the Avenue Teacher Only Forum. I always like to remind teachers that this is here. You can search the forum to find questions and answers that are already in the forum. You can add a new discussion topic to ask your question if you can't find the answer. And just to remind everyone that the Avenue related links block is over here, where you can report issues with e-units, just frequently asked questions, Avenue Development. And if you want to click on Avenue Development, you can see the Avenue features. And this is a page where we track the development of the different features we're building. So you can see what's coming, where it's at, and kind of how long you may have to wait for these features to be available. So there's a lot of great help out there. And last but definitely not least, you can email your mentor. So if you're in the training and you're into stage 2, you'll have a mentor and you can always email them if you can't find your answers elsewhere. Okay, so that's help with Avenue. Now, this is the needs assessment part. Um, I was going to ask everyone to use the chat for this just to save a bit of time. So if you want to write in the chat how long you've been using Avenue, just kind of in general, has it been a month, less than a month, a year, more than that? I, well, I'm sorry. I wasn't sure if I wanted to take the time. Thank you, everyone who's typing in there. That's excellent. I do have a poll set up, so let me just do that. I was just thinking it would be faster, but I'm realizing now maybe that's not faster. So I'm going to launch that poll. Okay, here we go. Proper Zoom poll. I am curious to know, and thank you to those who typed in the chat. I do appreciate that. If you'd like to answer the poll questions now, I'm hoping those are on the screen. Yeah, I see answers coming in. So some people have just started. Okay, remember this webinar is being recorded and it will be available on YouTube after. So if it gets confusing later on, please just wait for the video to come out and you can watch again. I see some people in the 6 months to a year there. A lot of people saying a year or more. That's excellent. Thank you, everyone. The next question is, are you teaching blended online or face-to-face classes? I'm seeing a lot of online, a little bit of face-to-face and some blended. This is the point in the session where I like to remind everyone that Avenue can be used with a face-to-face class, both as a place to get resources that you can print and use if you'd like to do it that way, or that you can project onto a screen and work with the whole class as a group. So there's different ways you can incorporate Avenue resources and activities into your face-to-face class. Also curious about what stage of the training you're in. A few people are saying stage 1. Don't see anyone saying the boot camp yet. Ooh, some stage 4 people on here and leadership. Thank you very much for answering those, everyone. I'm wondering if you've already used the ePortfolio, and I'm seeing 77% said yes, and 23% said no. So maybe after today's session, we'll have some more people using the ePortfolio. I'm going to end that poll now and just share the results so everyone can see what I was talking about. So you can see there that some people have just started, and then we've got a lot of people that have been using it for a couple of months or more, which is great to know. There's a real mix of blended online and face-to-face, and one not applicable. Maybe there's an administrator in the room or support staff. Okay, on the stage of training, lots of people in different stages, which is great to see. I do encourage people to continue with the training. Stage 2 and 3 look really in depth at Moodle activities and resources, whereas in stage 4, you move on to create activities that can be shared on sites like Tutela and used on other learning management systems. Very exciting. And leadership is also great if you want to be a lead teacher or a pioneer at your school. I do recommend that, and it's now in a micro-credential format. And then some people have, and very few people, but some have not used the ePortfolio. Okay, thank you for that, everyone. It was worth taking the time. I'm just always nervous of the clock and your own time out there. So I'm going to close that now and move along. Okay, the binder. Some people, this may be brand new, but for many of you, you've seen this before. This screenshot is taken from a teacher's page, so you can see the My Home link at the top, and then Classroom, Desk, and Binder. Binder looks the same for students and teachers, except for some minor differences. The My Portfolio is there, and then the CLBs and all the different sections you're familiar with. And the latest addition is the Francophone communities in Canada is there as well. Now, when You take a look at the Canadian language benchmarks or any of the other ones on this side. They are divided into the literacy stage 1 and stage 2. So clicking on the appropriate tab will open up the appropriate document for you. So these are great things that are in the binder. In addition to that, and the focus of today's session, there is my portfolio. So this screenshot is taken from a teacher's view. You can tell because there's a course selection and a student selection field here that a teacher would be able to choose which student's portfolio they're looking at. For students, and we'll see a student's ePortfolio today, they would only see their own and no one else's. Okay, so included in there are different ways you can sort: listening, reading, writing, speaking, other and about me. So you can sort what you're looking at in the binder, the ePortfolio, I'm sorry. You can sort them by name or by the course. So remember that any class that a student has been in on Avenue where they use the ePortfolio, those artifacts will remain in their ePortfolio wherever they go, enrolled or not enrolled in a course, enrolled in a new course, all the artifacts remain. And we'll see examples of that today as well. Okay, and then there's also an upload button here that's included in the My Portfolio. Now, the My Home page, and we're going to see a lot of this today. I want to move through my slides so we can get to the demonstration. But this is an important page. My Home for a teacher is where you'll find your course cards. In this screenshot, you can see here the hand is hovering over View the Class Register. This is great. From the course card, and I'll just read this, on the My Home page, teachers can access the class register. This includes the Learner Progress Summary, which provides information regarding the number of artifacts that the learner has submitted for each skill and competency area, and the number of artifacts that are also marked as successful in their ePortfolio or not yet successful. This information is collected from all their Avenue courses if the teachers are using the ePortfolio, so you can see the progress over time. When you click on that class register button, you'll open this page where you can see generated artifacts. And this column, it shows how many artifacts are saved for each skill. So reading, writing, listening, speaking, or about me and other, just from your course. So that's kind of an important distinction when we get to the next slide. The generated artifacts are just for, as it says in brackets, this course. And if you're not sure about the color coding, you can hover over, like here, they're hovering over 13, and it displays the skill area, in this case, which is writing. So this is nice. You can see a quick count of how many artifacts each student in your course has. Now, when you go over to the side and you click on the Learner Progress Summary button, which we'll do later in the demonstration, this page opens. So this shows artifacts from the skill using and assessment tasks that the learner has collected from all their past and current Avenue courses. So this is where you see the really big picture view of what the student has done. Artifacts that have incomplete information will not be counted here. Editing artifacts fixes this. And this is really important, and we'll see an example of this today. The number of artifacts collected by skill and competency area for each CLB level are displayed. It also shows how many of these were successful or not yet successful. So in this screenshot, and we'll see this in the example later on, over in the first column, what you're seeing there is how many generated artifacts the student has for each skill in total, for all the courses they've been in. And then in these columns where you see pre-CLB, and this is an example student, so it doesn't make much sense. They were in a pre-CLB course and a CLB3 and a CLB5 course, and artifacts were collected and edited and marked as successful or not. So when you hover your mouse over there, it shows you the competency area for this particular pie, if you want to think about it that way. So in a perfect world, a student would have 4 completed pies for each skill, for each competency area, for each level that they're in to satisfy the PBLA requirements. So this is a kind of an overview where a teacher can see what a student has done, and in your own course in particular. Now, this all starts with tagging for auto collection. So I'm going to move through these slides. And I do apologize if anyone's asking questions in the chat. I will take a look at that later, but I'll check in that when we get to the Q&A. Tagging for auto collection happens 2 different ways, and I've made notes here that are really important to remember. If you're using a ready-made activity that you got from the course builder on Avenue, you need to check the settings page for the tags before the students do the activity. If there are no tags and it's an activity type that can be auto-collected, then you want to add those tags before the students do the activity. If you're creating a new activity yourself, so self-made activities, you want to add the tags for auto collection before the students do the activity. So that just saves you kind of some headache later on, is making sure those tags are there before you begin. Now, just to take a look at the screenshot here, over here now, when you're in the settings for any activity, you'll find the tags area. When you open this, you have to remember that there's only those 7 activity types that can be auto-collected. So even though you may see this in every activity type, the auto collection only works for the ones that we'll look at today. You want to tag it for ePortfolio. That creates the auto collection part. And then you tag it for the skill, and that's where you sort it. You can also have about me or other, but you can only have 2 tags. Okay, so ePortfolio you must have, and then the skill, about me, or other is the other tag that you would use. You can only use 2 because that's all that there are to be used. You can add more, but they won't do anything and they won't work. So just that's one of the tips. Just remember that, only 2 tags. And I put a little note here in the tagging slide that you can tag after the fact, and we do have a help file for that. And I will show you how to do that today as well if we have time. So this is where it all begins in the activity settings. If it's a ready-made one, check it. If they aren't there, add them. If you're creating the activity yourself, add them, and all of this before the students do the activity. So the different types, and we'll look at them now, are these. The first are forums. And I want to draw your attention to this. This is the settings page for a forum on Avenue. And you give the forum a name, and then there's the description. And I want to highlight the description for everyone, because whatever you put in the description, okay, for all activity types that have descriptions, will be included with the artifact in the ePortfolio. So this is a great place to put first and foremost the instructions, okay? And then you want to put in anything else that will help students in the ePortfolio. So the CLB information, the indicators of success, the success criteria, the competency information, and then here I've added a note for forums that only certain types of forums can be auto-collected. So this description is really important, and we'll see in the examples later how that looks. The only type of form that you can't use, we'll see that on the next slide, and I'll move to that one, is a single simple discussion. So that's the one that does not auto-collect. Most teachers don't use that one, so don't bother with it, don't use it. But if you don't know what that is, and here's one of the tips today, in the settings page for any activity on Avenue, there are these little blue circles with a question mark in them. If you click on that with your mouse, it opens up a little pop-up that explains what that setting is all about. So here you can see what the different forum types are by clicking on that button. Something to remember for forums is that it auto-collects the student's post, and that's all. So whether you're grading the form or not, whether you're replying to the students or not, the only thing it's going to auto-collect is their post. So this would be mostly useful for skill building activities, maybe for a skill using, but I wouldn't recommend it for assessments. So that's what it looks like in forums and what will be collected. The next one is the feedback. This is a new activity type. It has a description, so you can add information if you'd like to that will be collected with the artifact. It's kind of like a hybrid between a choice activity, which has one question, and a questionnaire that has many questions. There are lots of question types to choose from, and in the screenshot there, in the feedback edit questions page, I've just shown the drop down so you can see the different types of questions you can ask students. And then there's some questions in there so you can see what multiple choice looks like. So we'll see that in the examples later on. Questionnaire is the next activity type that can be auto-collected. It is also new, so that's something that we've added. It does have a description, so you can add information to the artifact. And this picture here is actually taken from the artifact in the ePortfolio. So you can see that the information that was included with the questionnaire is included here with the artifact. There's lots of question types to choose from with questionnaire, so it's a great one for needs assessment or start of the session, end of the session, reflection, lots of different ways that you can use the questionnaire. So that's exciting, and we'll see it today. This one here is H5P, tagging this for auto collection. One thing to note about H5P is that it's an auto marking activity type, so there's never any teacher feedback to be collected. There's also no description for H5Ps, so you can't add that extra information in the description like you can with the other activity types. One thing to add here is that you can edit in the ePortfolio to add more information as necessary. So we'll see that later in the session, how to edit an artifact in the ePortfolio. You can also upload documents and relate them to artifacts in the ePortfolio so that they're connected there. So we'll see a bit of that later on today. In the picture here, what you see is a screenshot from the ePortfolio artifact. So you can see the student score up here under speaking. Then you can see what the name of it was. And H5P take the first page of the H5P and put it into the artifact. Then it shows the attempt summary there, the score, and then the attempts down below, how long it took them to do it, and the score, and whether or not it was completed. So H5P, again, they're great for skill building, but I wouldn't recommend this for any kind of assessment. Next is scoring, very similar to H5P, and if you're in stage 4, you may know how to make both of them, and if you don't, maybe you will by the end of stage 4. Again, these are auto marking like H5Ps, so no teacher feedback to populate the artifact. It does have a description though, so you can add more information if you'd like to. And then finally, you can add edit in the ePortfolio to add more information as you need. Again, like the H5P, this is a screenshot from the ePortfolio, and you'll see that it takes the first page of the SCORM as the image for the ePortfolio, and then it includes the attempt summary down below and the score information for the student there. Up above all of this, you can see this bit of text is actually from the description for that SCORM activity. Okay, tagging quiz for auto collection. We're almost there to the demonstration part, which is my favorite bit. This screenshot is taken from an artifact for a quiz. I've doctored it just a little bit so you can see what would happen if you scroll down. There's a lot more below that as well. And we'll see that in the example today. But it does have a description, so you can add more information to be auto collected with the artifact. It collects teacher feedback for teacher graded question types. So if you've included an essay style question in your quiz and you have to grade that manually and give feedback, that will be included with the auto collection. And then here's one of the questions that will come up later and comes up often is that you can regrade a quiz to make it auto collect again. So if you forgot to add the tags, you can add the tags after the students have done the work and then regrade the quiz. And I'll show you how to do that in a moment. And that will auto collect it again. Okay, so we're going to move along here. I just want to get through these slides. And remember, this will be on YouTube, so you can come back and watch it later. The final activity type that can be tagged for auto collection is assignment. I think for assessments and skill using tasks, between quiz and assignment, they have all the things you might need for pretty well all the skill areas if you'd like to use this for auto collecting your student submissions to the ePortfolio. So quiz and assignment are the big ones, especially for skill using and assessed tasks. Here in this example, you can see this is from the artifact in the ePortfolio, and this is all description. So this is what I meant. You can have the module topic, the competency area, the criteria, the success score, the different information instructions, all the things that the student would have can be auto-collected with the artifact. So using those descriptions to include more information. It does auto-collect the description. It auto-collects file submissions. We're going to talk about the difference between Word and PDF in a little moment here. It does auto-collect online text and Moodle voice recordings. Hey, and just a quick shout out to John Allen for setting up our next webinars, the Moodle. And the creator of Moodle themselves is going to be part of the webinar, so watch for that one coming soon. You can register from the learnit2teach.ca site or from the Teachers Only forum. It also auto-collects the teacher's grade and feedback, and if you have used them, it will auto-collect your rubrics as well. So assignment is great. There's a lot of different things that you can have auto-collected for the students. Some things don't auto-collect though, and we will talk about that today as well. Going on, editing artifacts. So when you're in the ePortfolio or My Portfolio and the teacher's view, and you want to edit an artifact, what you do is you click on the view icon on that artifact. Okay, this step's very important, editing the artifact, because this is what populates the learner's progress summary that we saw at the start, and we'll see again in the demonstration. Once you've clicked on view, the artifact opens, and you can see that on the side here. And then on the left column, you would select the activity type. So other, if it's skill building or something that's come as needs assessment or something like that. Skill using task or assessment. If you select skill using task, assessment, or self-assessment, then you would choose the competency area, so the skill, and the CLB level. Move to the next slide. You can then select the can-do statement that relates to what the student has been doing, and then you can click on successful or not yet successful. And just to return to what I said at the start, coming soon on Avenue, all of this CLB level can-do statement and skill will soon be part of the activity settings themselves. The only thing you'll have to mark here will be successful or not yet successful. So that's going to really speed things up, especially for the teacher who I believe had 22 students and had to do each one of these for their students. I do understand it's time consuming, but remember this is something that's brand new and we are building it as we speak from the ground up. So we're trying to make improvements as best we can. So once you've done all that, you would go down to the corner and click on Save, and that will add this to the Learner Progress Summary and add this information to their artifact itself. Now, after the fact, I think we should talk about after the fact. Well, yes, we will, because that comes up in the demonstration. So let's get to that part now. All right, I've got a few different tabs open here. I'm going to move to this tab. Up in the corner, you can see Paul Carter with my picture. This is my teacher account. So in my teacher account, I'm going to go and click on Avenue. When I click on Avenue, I'm going to select, first of all, my home. Now, this is a big page for me. So remember, I have a lot of courses as a mentor developer, so your page will be a lot less course cards. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down to the course card I need, which is Paul Carter link 3.4 down here for my webinar, and I'm going to click on the class register. So when I click on the class register from the course card for the course I want to look at, I see my students, Maria, Paul, ePort, and Carter. Here you can see activity completion. If you use that in your course, you can see the progress the student has made. My example student today is ePortfolio, and I thought that was funny. And this student, as you'll see, has no completion in the course and 0 generated artifacts. So I'd like you to note the differences here in the generated artifacts. Maria only has 1 writing artifact. Paul Sample has done a few things, 2 for listening, 1 for reading, got 1 for other, but ePortfolio has nothing, no generated artifacts at all for this course that I'm looking at. So when I click on their Learner Progress Summary, we'll see that it's completely blank. So this is going to be my example today, and we'll watch this populate as we move along. If I look at Maria, she's only got 1 generated artifact for this course, but Maria is one of our busiest sample students, and if I look at her Learner Progress Summary, we're going to see a lot of these pies. So over here in this column, these are 8 artifacts tagged listening in this ePortfolio. So from all the courses that sample student Maria has been in, which include pre-CLB, CLB 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, somehow they skipped CLB 7 and went straight to CLB 8. So maybe this teacher wasn't using Avenue. So what we see here is over time, she's got 8 listening artifacts in total, 18 speaking artifacts in total for all her courses. But if I go to my course, and in this example today, it's the CLB 4 column and CLB 3 column, we go down below and I can hover over these, and it tells me this is speaking, interacting with others, Maria has 3 successful artifacts of 3 available artifacts. Down here, for giving instructions, speaking, she only has 1 successful artifact out of 1 possible artifacts available to her. If we look at the reading column, we start to see orange. Orange means not yet successful. The whole pie turns orange, no matter how many artifacts they have. And in this case, it's a 0 of 1. So there's 1 available, and she was not successful on that 1. Down here, we see 0 of 2 for comprehending information and reading. That means there's 2 available activities that she could do to get this competency area for that skill, but she was unsuccessful at both of them. In another square here, for writing, CLB4, reproducing information, we see that there are 2, so 2 quarters are filled green that were successful, but there were 3 possible activities, and she was not successful on the 3rd. So at a glance, a teacher can see successful or not and how many activities for each competency area of each skill in their own course or the courses that have come before. Now remember that Maria is a sample student, and as I said, in a perfect world, what we would see here before CLB5 or 3, down here in CLB2, we'd want to see 4 green circles that all say 4 of 4 for each competency area for this skill. And if it was all filled green, then she's moved on to CLB3, and this would start to populate that way. Now, populating this page comes from editing the artifacts. So we're going to see that later on, but I just wanted to really take a look at what this page is and what it does for the teacher at a glance. So I'll go back again, and I'm going to close this now. And just to show you what we're doing here, I'm going to actually go to the course. So this is my 3-4 webinar course. And in this course, the first thing I want to show you is that there's some restriction settings set up here. So these ePortfolio inventory wikis are only available to 1 student and 1 student alone. No one else can see them. So I just wanted you to note that there's 2 here, but when I log in as my student, they will only see their own for ePortfolio. We'll get to that later at the end of the session. Down below in the ePortfolio tips and tricks section, you'll see the activity types that can be auto-collected. So we've got the first one is an assignment. This is the autobiography, which you might use for About Me. Here we've got a questionnaire in the other section, which are the can-do statements, self-checklist for listening. These are all just examples I've taken from different units from the course builder, so it may not make sense just to remember this is just for the example's sake. Under skill building tasks, I put in a few different examples. The feedback activity type is there, and then H5P and SCORM. So we'll see what those look like. Here is a forum under skill using task. You might want to use that to write an email to a friend. Forums look a lot like emails when you write them. And then finally, this is a quiz for the assessment task. And in this one, I grabbed a CLB4 speaking assessment task, but I actually doctored it up to make it easier for my student to do today. So please, nothing here is the way it should be. It's all for the example. But I just want you to note the icons and the activity types, because these are the ones that can be auto-collected. Now, these have all got this set up and ready to go. So if I go into this, if this was a pre-made activity and I wanted to check, is this tagged for auto collection? I could go to the activity and I can click here to open the settings page. And once I'm in the settings, I can scroll down below. There's a whole bunch of information here, but that's another webinar. And down at the very bottom, you'll see tags, and I open it up and you'll see that this is tagged for ePortfolio to make it auto collect. And then it's going to be sorted into the About Me for sorting purposes in the ePortfolio. So if this was ready-made, I'd be satisfied that those tags are there. If I open this up and find that there are no tags there, I would want to add them. I recommend using the drop-down just so you don't make a typo. ePortfolio for auto collection and About Me is how I want to sort it. And then I could save that and display it. And I could see the activity there. In the same way, and again, maybe this is for another webinar, if I turn editing on the main course page, I can skip the going to the activity part and just come here and open the settings from this drop-down menu beside it. So that's where you find the tags in all activity types. And remember, the only ones that auto-collect are the ones we're focusing on today. So those tags are there. Now, that's what we've got set up for the students. So this is what's there, and I'm now going to have my student do them. So I'm going to get rid of this. It's blocking my view. Tips and tricks. Here's a tip. I like to set up a sample student in my course. You can use a real email address, not the same one that you use, or a fake one if you prefer. If you use a real one, you can see the notifications happening. But then when you have a sample student set up, you can have another browser. In this case, I've got Microsoft Edge. Okay, and this is a sample student ePortfolio, and I can see what they see in real time as I'm editing as a teacher. Oh, and as we note here, they can only see their own ePortfolio inventory wiki because of the restriction settings I used, which were based on their email address. So only the student can see that. So this student's going to move along here and get to work. Here's the assignment. So in this assignment, I've got it set up so that when the student adds a submission, they can do everything that's possible. So they can have a file submission, they can record audio, and they can type online text. For file submission, they can drag and drop. So I've got some files ready to go here. And I'm going to first put in PDF, and then I'm going to put in Microsoft Word so that you can see the difference between those when they get collected to the ePortfolio. The student's going to record. Hello, this is my autobiography. Thank you for listening. Stop that, play it. Hello, this is my autobiography. Sounds good. Student's going to upload that. And then for online text, I've got a little text file here, and this is their autobiography assignment. They would paste it in here or type it in there, online text, and save the changes. Now, just for demonstration purposes, and you probably wouldn't use this for autobiography, but I've got this set up so that the students have to submit the assignment. So they have to actually click on this button, submit assignment. And then I've also set it up so they have to do the submission statement saying that this is my own work. Just to remind people that that does exist, and you can set that up in the assignment settings. This student is happy with that and clicks on continue, and they have now submitted their work. It's probably taking a moment because of everything I just uploaded there. There we go. Okay, so if you'll remember, this student had nothing in their ePortfolio. If they click now on the avenue at the top, and this is a sample student going to their binder, you'll see that there is now this new addition to their binder. It's got lots of different media types in it, so it looks like that. The teacher hasn't marked it yet, but just making the submission auto-collects it. If they click on the listen or view button, depending on what's in it, we can see what everything looks like. Now, I want to make this point now. Might make it again later. Microsoft Word is something that you have to pay for to use. I like to remind teachers of that because students don't always have Microsoft Word and they may have to pay for it. Word documents don't open automatically as a general rule. You generally have to download them. So that artifact that the student uploaded, their online file submission, was a Word doc, and they would have to then click on download to download it and then open it. Whenever possible, if you can change things or teach your students how to change them to PDF, PDF will automatically display. So this is the PDF, which is the exact same thing as the Word doc, but it's just in PDF format. So it displays in the ePortfolio rather than this download button where they have to click on it and then it downloads and then they have to open it. But to do that, they have to have Word and they would have had to pay for that. So it can be frustrating. Over here, we'll see this is the online text submission. So everything that was in the description, so this is the description, is included in the artifact. And below this is the online text submission, which is the same as what they typed in their PDF and their Word doc. And then finally, when you click on the fourth one here, oops, what have I done? There we go. Let me move back and forward. And there's the, hello, this is my audio. There's the audio file that was auto-collected as well. So that's what the students put in there for their submission for their artifact. So I'm going to close that now. Remember, this is my sample student. I'm going to return to Firefox, where I'm logged in as the teacher. I'm going to open that same activity. I'm going to see here that there's one that needs grading. So I'm going to go to grade. I'm going to remember to change it to ePortfolio. Oh, that's the first one that came up. Excellent. So here we'll see that the PDF and the Word doc have been displayed so that you can do different things on it. You can mark it up. So, well, maybe not X's. Sorry about that. ePortfolio. We're going to do some checks instead. Over on the side, you can see everything that was submitted. So here's the Word doc and the PDF. There's the audio file. Here's the online text. So that's what was written. You wouldn't do this for autobiography, but I did for the example. I'm going to grade this student. And here's feedback comments. Now, I'm going to show this to you right now. You can do this in other activity types, but feedback comments are great. So first of all, you can put in your comments. So I could say, excellent work, very well done. But if I wanted to include something that's going to be visible to students in the artifact, that's a little bit more about the assessing of this task, if it was an assessment. If I have a Word document, I know I just said things about Word, but here it is, a Word document, and I have a table rubric set up like this. If I highlight the whole table, and then I'm using Control-C to copy, or you can right-click and copy if you prefer. So I've just copied this whole table. I'm going to go back here where I was grading my students in the feedback comments, and I can actually paste that in here. Now, I could have filled it in Word and then copied and pasted it, or I can fill it in here. So let me add some X's here, and I'll put a 4 there, just for the example, but you can do it in the comments area. And this will be auto-collected with the student's work. Feedback files, same thing again. If I have an assessment slip or something like that, Word, again, we'll hit the same problem with Word. It won't display, but PDF always does. So if you want to upload that sort of rubric in a file format, you can do that here. But note that it won't be auto-collected. There'll be a note that says files embedded, and the student would have to come here to the assignment to find it. And then I can also record my voice as a teacher. Oh, I have to allow my microphone. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Play that. Okay, and we could upload that. So this teacher has now marked up the PDF version. They've got the files they've uploaded. There's that rubric we added to the comments. They've graded this one, not that you would, and they've added a Moodle recorder feedback file as well. The teacher is now going to save the changes. Now, when I click on Save Changes there, what it did is it's auto-collected again. So the question is going to come up later about how to do this after the fact, and the way to auto-collect an assignment activity after the fact is to make a change to the grades. You can do something as small as adding an extra exclamation mark and then clicking on Save Changes, and that will force it to auto-collect this submission and all the information attached to it again. Now I'm going to go back to my sample student in Edge, and I'm going to refresh. Now, when I refresh and I open up the same artifact that was created, I'm going to see now that there is a feedback button. So I still have all the student submission here that we saw before, but now when I click on feedback, it gives me this page. And here we can see the description. We can see the score I gave, 80%. We can see who the teacher was, the teacher feedback, and notice 2 exclamation marks. So it auto-collected that small change we made. And then here's what that rubric I pasted in with the 4 out of 4 would look like. And then down below here it says files embedded. And this is what I meant, that for assignments, it'll auto-collect your comments, the grade, the teacher's feedback, but anything else that you've added, like a Moodle voice file or a file you've uploaded for students, the students would have to return to the assignment to get to that. Now, if I really want that to be attached, there is a way to do that, and we'll see that in a moment. But for now, I'm going to close this one here. Whoops, I've got all these Zoom chat things in my way. I'm just going to move them. Sorry, everyone. We'll get to the questions later and close that. I'm going to go as my student back to the classroom now. And what I'm going to do is just quickly move through these activities so we can see everything auto-collect. I'm going to move back down here. We did autobiography. I'm going to click on the can-do statements questionnaire. So remember, this is a questionnaire. The student would answer the questions. In this case, it's can-dos for listening at CLB3. This is one that comes with the PBLA resources section that can be included in your course when you select your course template. The student is going to submit the questionnaire. Now, again, if I go back to the ePortfolio, you would see that this is auto-collected that submission, but we'll look at them all at the end. The student's going to continue now. They could look at it if they wanted. Goes back to that section. Now for feedback. So this is the feedback activity type. This one has a description. The student would answer the questions. Did I have a previous job? We'll say yes. Worked in Canada? Maybe no. Looking for a job now? Yes. What do I do? I'll select those two. What job do I want? Let's put bookkeeper. I'll submit the answers. And again, this has now created another artifact in the ePortfolio for this student. We'll continue there. They go back to that section again. The next one is an H5P. Now, I tried to pick an H5P without very many questions to make this quickly. So we'll move.
Listen to the conversation again. Type in the missing words.
Okay, so I just did some answers there. This is to get a score, because without a
Listen to the
score,
conversation.
it won't
Listen
auto-collect.
again and answer.
Okay, thank you. Martha's your instructor. I know this. I've done this a few times in the afternoon. Very good. Well done, ePortfolio. To call our employer. Oh, okay. That was be her reference. Email address. And this one is quality. Okay, good, good, good. Thank you.
Listen again. Type the words you hear to complete the conversation.
Okay, check that. Didn't do very well.
You
Moving through the slides. Now that I've clicked on the final summary slide where students see their score, at that moment, when I clicked on that, it auto-collected to the ePortfolio. So we've now got an H5P artifact in there. I'm going to go back to the section again. Sorry for moving quickly at this point, but I wanted to show everything, and there's a few more tips at the end. I was going to have you do this quiz, but I'll just move quickly through it first. Face-to-face is that one. Okay. And the next one is speaking practice. Okay. This is a SCORM activity. These are a lot of fun. I really like SCORM, and if you're into creating activities in stage 4, they're the most versatile. It's the most things that you can change, modify, make the way you want it to be. So this one's a little bit plain, but still, they do work. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. So we'll move along. Sorry, I'm talking to myself as I do the quiz, getting some wrong. Again, like the H5P, until the student has actually done everything in this form, it won't auto-collect. So I'm just going to try my luck here with moving these straight across. Let's see how this student does. Come on, ePort, you've got this. Oh, not so good. And then blended part 3. And this one we can do some quick typing. Okay, we'll check that. Terrible score, but still a score nonetheless. So this student will exit the SCORM activity and is now going to do a forum post. So this is a simple forum, the default one that you set up when you add a new forum. And this one, the students have to add a discussion. So I've got that here for the student. And take that. Paste it in there. Give the discussion topic a name. Oops. And there's their post. And they're now going to post that to the forum. All right, one more activity type to go. That was the forum. And I'm going to return to the section. And the last one is a quiz. Now, notice again the description. So this is the description in the quiz that the teacher has set up. Lots of information is included there. And when the student clicks on attempt quiz now, and this one happens to be timed, they'll start their attempt. In this one, sorry about the broken image file. That was just in the setup for today. They have to listen, and then there's one question. I think he's looking for a job. And then in this one, I had it as a speaking quiz so that the student would record their voice. This is my speaking assessment submission. This is my speaking. Okay, we'll upload that. and the student will then click on Finish Attempt. And when they click Submit All and Finish, and confirm that, again, ePortfolio artifact has been created. This one happens to have a bit of teacher feedback required. So I'm going to return to my Teachers tab now again. I'll go back to the course that we're working in. And we'll come down below here to the quiz. I'm going to open that quiz. And as a teacher, I would go to manual grading. In this case, there is one question that needs grading. And I'll click on grade here. So this is the response the student submitted, and I could put my comments there for them. So I'm just going to give them a really nice review. Excellent work, very well done. And I'll score, let's say 13 out of 13. And I will save and go to next. So now, when I go to the ePortfolio, we're going to see all of this marking that's been included with the ones that have teachers marking and the student submissions for them all. So to take a look at that, I'm going to go to the student's ePortfolio again. So this is my sample student. They're going back to their ePortfolio by clicking on Binder, My Portfolio, and look at everything now. If I sort by listening, we'll see that there's 1 for listening, it's 1 for reading, 2 for writing, 1 for speaking, we've got 1 for other, and 1 for about me. I could sort these in different ways, but for now, let's just leave it there. If I take a look at the speaking assessment, that was the quiz. What we see is everything. So here is the score at the top, and then the description. Here you can download the audio file to listen to what the students listen to. This is the feedback, which includes the transcript, the attempt information, the question that they got right, which was looking for a job, multiple choice. And then down below that, you'll see the question text, record your response. And then here, if you click on download, this is my speaking. It opens up the audio file that the student would have made. If I go back, I scroll back down there, the comments are included. Excellent work, very well done. And then there's the response history and the score as well. So that's everything that's included with the quiz artifact. The next one beside that one here is, I believe, the forum. So if we open the forum to view, you'll see the descriptions included there, and then the student's discussion with the name and the discussion itself. Close that. The SCORM. We view the SCORM artifact. As I said, it includes the first activity as a screenshot. It includes the description, which is this little bit here. It includes the score. And then down below the attempt history and the score. You'll see that they didn't do very well the second time, which we just saw today. Where's that? H5P. We view that artifact. What you can see is that screenshot from the H5P itself. The score is up here below the skill, the attempt information, how long, and the score, and then down below again, the attempt information. So that's what an H5P artifact looks like. The next one here is the feedback. So if we take a look at the feedback, you'll see that the description is included there. The picture didn't make it over. Sometimes pictures don't, but the information is included, the text, which is the most important thing. The students' answers are included as well, so you can see what they did for their submission. The can-do statements, we put this in other. This was the questionnaire. And quite simply, you see the information here, the description above, and then the question itself, and then the student's submission here below. Where's that? And then finally, the autobiography, which we already looked at, is the one that has the feedback included because the teacher did all that different grading for the student there. So I'll close that now. Now, I'm going to return to my teacher's page, and I'm going to go to the My Portfolio in the Binder section there. Oh, I'm sorry. First, I'd like to go to My Home. We'll go to My Home again, and I'd like to scroll down here and show you what the changes to the class register look like. So ePortfolio now has some activity completion in the course. You can see the artifacts that were generated for each of the different areas. And then if we view their learner progress summary, oh, there's nothing there. Now, I'm making a joke, but there's nothing there because we haven't edited any of these yet. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to close this. And now we're going to go to the binder. I'm just going to do one for the example's sake because it's the same for any artifact at all. But for example, the speaking assessment that had the student's spoken submission to the quiz, if I click here on listen or view, this opens up the page where I can now edit on the side. So you'll see the artifact name, the course it's from. In this case, this was assessment. So I would mark it as such. Down below, it's a speaking assessment, CLB level 3. And then I can select the can-do statement, and let's just say getting things done, and I'll mark it as successful. Now I'm going to save that, and we'll see if I go back here to the My Home page in the teacher view. Sorry for clicking around so much, everyone. And click on the class register. Now I go to ePortfolio's Learner Progress Summary, and it's not there. Okay, that shouldn't have happened. Oh, it's because was it about me? Oh, how embarrassing. Let me see what I did wrong. Okay, we'll go back to the binder. CL before speaking assessment. This is the one, right? Assessment, speaking, CLB3, getting things done. Marked as successful, and I saved it. Okay.
I
Student
just
is
need to
Carter
refresh the
sample.
page.
Oh, good eye. Thank you, whoever said that. Oh, okay. I just had that webinar heart attack where I'm like, oh no, it didn't do what it's supposed to do. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I can't see your name at the moment, but I really appreciate
Sarah.
it. Sarah,
Sarah
thank you.
Burhan.
I forgot when I went to the ePortfolio to select the appropriate student who was ePortfolio. Thank you so much.
Happens to me all the time.
Now I'll click on this. I'll mark it as an assessment. Now, okay, here we go. SCLB3. We'll go for getting things done again. We'll say successful and we'll save it. Thank you very much. I return to my sample student who is ePortfolio and refresh. Okay, now when I view the artifact, oh, that wasn't what I was showing him. Okay, I got flustered. My home. I'm going to close that. I'm going to refresh the page. What I was trying to show you, and it will work now, is when I go to the class register and view the learner progress summary. There she is. Okay, getting things done for speaking CLB3, one successful artifact of one possible artifact. Okay, now back to that binder. The forum, the SCORM, the H5P, the feedback, the questionnaire, these are all the different types that you'd probably use for skill building or needs assessment. But let's go to the assignment now, and I'm going to click on listen again. Remember, we did give feedback, and the student does have that rubric that we included that does show their success for them as part of the artifact. But if you want it to be included in that learner progress summary, we would have to mark it as an assessment, in this case, listening. We'll say CLB level 3. We'll mark it as comprehending instructions. And this time, let's just for fun say not yet successful. I'll save that. Now I'll return to the My Home page, and I'll refresh there. And I'll scroll down to that course again and open the Learner Progress Summary for ePortfolio. And we'll now see that a listening artifact is orange because it was not successful, and it's 0 of 5 possible listening assessment tasks in this course. So we can see this being populated over time. Okay, so I'm going to go back now and I'm going to close that. What if your student has done something and you've marked it in a Word document or as a PDF file, for example? So I'm going to go back to the binder here for ePortfolio, and I'm going to click this time now on Upload New Item. So maybe they've done something in class or online, and you've got a related artifact. So I'm going to say here, let's say that the related artifact is that speaking assessment task. And let's say that I had created a PDF version of my Word document of my rubric that I had done there. So I can drag and drop them, or I can choose the file. Cancel that. And then I can click on Upload. So remember, I've related it to this artifact that already exists, and I click on Upload. Now I'll close that. And if I refresh in the student view, I'm going to go back here and refresh in the student view. We'll see that there's something new that's been added. If I click on view there, it is this, what we saw before for the quiz. I'm sorry, the autobiography. And then when they click on 2 here, they'll now see this new document that I've attached to it by relating it to that artifact when I manually uploaded it. So this is another way that you can get things visible to students. Remember, using PDF works best, and attached to the related artifact. So I'll close that there. I'd like to just reorient myself and thank you for staying. If there's anyone still in the room, I'm afraid I closed all the tabs so I can't see the participants, just to better my view. But I want to make sure I haven't got lost, and we'll return to here. So after the fact, auto-collect again with quiz and assignment. So if you've created a quiz, your students have already done it, and you forgot to tag it, you can fix that after the fact by going to your course. I'm going to go to my course, sorry, over here, classroom. I'll go to my course. So let's just say for the example's sake that this quiz I have here in my course was set up, the students had done it, but I forgot to tag it. After the fact, what I can do is I can go to the edit page and I go down to the tags and they'll be here because they were here, but if they weren't here, I could add them now and save that and display. Okay. We come back here, and then down below, we would click on attempts. So we're going to see all the students' finished attempts that are already there. And I'm going to click on this regrade all button. And I want to put your mind at ease. It only regrades the automatically marked questions. So if you did any manual marking, manual grading, don't worry, this won't delete that. It just regrades the multiple choice true false style questions. So when I click on regrade all, it's going to ask me if I'm sure, I believe. Well, it's going to take a moment to do that. And when it does regrade all, it will auto collect again. So it successfully regraded all 4 of them. If I click on continue, this would have now auto collected again. So with a quiz, you can add the tags and then click on the regrade all button to force auto collection again. If you have an assignment activity type that your students did and you forgot to tag it, again, you can go to the settings page, edit the settings. They will be there. This is the example. Add the tags that you forgot to add the first time. Save and display that. Now, for assignments, to get them to auto-collect, what you have to do is you have to grade. So you go back into your grades, and you have to make some change. So in this example here, I would go to maybe my feedback comments, and I'm going to add a 3rd and 4th exclamation mark. When I click Save Changes, that's going to auto-collect this student's submission again. So if the whole class did it and you're tagging after the fact, you'll have to make a small change to your comments in the feedback to make this auto-collect for each one. So if I now go back to my Students tab and I refresh their binder, we're going to see that the, oh, now which one was that? That was autobiography? Yes. All this is still the same, but the feedback here, if I scroll down, we've got our 4 exclamation marks. So it auto-collected it again. So that's how you do it after the fact. Now, here comes a bit of the bad news. For the different activity types, you can't do that. There's no way to have them auto-collect after the fact. H5P students would have to do the H5P again for it to auto-collect. For SCORM, it would be the same. They would have to do it again for it to auto-collect after the fact. But these aren't typically activity types you would use for skill using or assess tasks, so it probably wouldn't matter that much. For questionnaire, and I wanted to show this as a last thing here, if I go back to my teacher's course, if your students have already done the questionnaire and you tag it after the fact, it won't auto-collect, so they'll have to do the questionnaire again. Or you can go into the questionnaire, you can view all responses, and then you can get a list of responses to see student by student. And if I click on ePortfolio here, I can then click print this response, and this opens a new page for me. And then when I go to print, I can choose Microsoft Print to PDF. So instead of printing it, it's going to create a PDF. And I'm going to click print there. I have to save it somewhere, so I'll put it in my folder here, and I'll put example questionnaire. And I'll save that. So I've just saved that PDF. Now I can go back to my ePortfolio. So I'll return here. And again, this is if you forgot to do this and you're trying to get this questionnaire in there after the fact. I can go to the binder. I'm on the right student, ePortfolio, excellent. I can click on upload a new item. If there is no related artifact, you can leave it as such. In this case, it would probably be the can-do statements. So I would put that there. I would choose the file. So here it was the example questionnaire PDF. I can upload that. Close that. Now, I don't know why you would, but if you used a questionnaire and you wanted to actually make this part of the counted artifacts, you could go into it there and you could make it an assessment. And then you could choose on all these things, say writing, let's say CLB3, and then getting things done, we'll say successful, and we'll save that. So we've just uploaded that PDF we created. You could do the same thing with a screenshot. You could screenshot their questionnaire response and upload it like that. If I return to my student view now and refresh the ePortfolio, we'll see that this new can-do statements artifact is here. And the student can see it like that. So in a pinch, you could do that for a questionnaire if you forgot to tag it. Now I'm going to return there to my PowerPoint presentation. Print to PDF, we just saw. Remember, Word requires download in any case, so PDF always works better. And you can use screenshots to upload as well. Now, the questions that came in before the session were about tagging after the fact. We've kind of looked at that now. The ePortfolio additional info settings that's coming soon, where you'll be able to add that to the activity settings themselves. There was a question about a learner progress summary for students, and I'll tell you what, that would be very confusing for students. We'd have to have a whole course to train them on how to look at the learner progress summary, and it's actually for the teacher to be able to manage and see what different assessed tasks they need to have in the times coming up. So I wanted to just show you something that I set up that we saw at the very beginning of the session, and I'm going to go into my course if I can get there quickly from here. And what you can do, remember that the inventory and the portfolio are meant to be sort of the student's responsibility. And if you'd like to give them the responsibility right within your class, I found a nice solution for that is to use a wiki. And you'll see here with this wiki that I have set up, if I go into the settings for this wiki, it has some instructions on how to edit and save the changes that the student would make. In restrict access, I have students must match the user profile field email address is equal to, and then the student's email address. By clicking on the I here to cross it out, this means only the student with this email address can see this wiki. So if I save and return to the course, in the teacher's view, we see that I have two of these here, and you can quite easily duplicate these. If you have more students who join your class, you can set them up for the students and then they can add to them. So I've just duplicated that. We've got another copy here. I would change the restriction settings as well. In the student's view, if the student goes to the classroom and goes to their course, and they find their ePortfolio that only they can see this wiki, and they click on it, you can see it's just an inventory. So successful, not yet successful is one of the columns. Tips for success is great to add to these for all the different skills. It keeps going. The student would click on edit here. And then as they add activities to their ePortfolio, which they could have open on another tab while they're doing this, if they're working on a computer, they can type into it and they can then save. And only they and you can see this. And this is a nice place and a nice way for students to do the portfolio inventory and meet the requirements for one of the CLBs, which is filling in a form and actually copying or reproducing information if they had their ePortfolio open on another tab. So that's a little trick that you can do to keep the students on track if they want a place to kind of keep track of their ePortfolio artifacts. There was a question as well about duplicating a quiz to make changes. I'm not sure how many people are still here, but I am going to keep talking and then I'll get to your questions in a moment from the chat. Duplicating a quiz is something you can do to make changes, but there's a big warning attached to that. If you duplicate a quiz, like this one here, and duplicate, and when I go into that quiz that I've duplicated, and this might take a moment because of the things that were built into that, I'm not sure. Hopefully it'll be quick for the webinar's sake. Duplicating that quiz. To keep talking, the thing to remember about quizzes is that the questions actually live or reside in the question bank. So if you duplicate a quiz, you've now got two quizzes that are using the same questions from the question bank. So it's one question in the question bank that's now going to be in two different quizzes. If I go into the new copy of that quiz and I edit the question, edit it, save the changes, it's going to change it in every quiz that that question's in. So when this finally finishes loading, I can show you what I mean. The way to edit a quiz is to add new questions to it and delete the questions you don't want. So if you want to change the question, say it says, how old is John? And you want to change it to how old is Jane? You don't want to, sorry, I'm going to click on the new quiz here to open the copied quiz. If I go into edit quiz, where I can edit the quiz questions, this question here, for example, multiple choice, if I edit this question in the copy, the new copy, if I change here Alex to Jane, if I was to click on Save Changes after having done that, it's going to change it in every quiz that this question is in. So you don't want to do that because that's going to change the original too. So if you want to do what we're talking about here, which is copying a quiz or duplicating it, change it for another level of students or another class, you would go to edit quiz just like we did before, but rather than changing this question, what I might do is open it and then copy whatever text I need. If there's a lot of text, that can save me some time. So I copy that. I'm going to go back again to the page I was on before. And now I'm going to add a new question. And I'm going to say multiple choice, and I'll say add. And then I would give the question a name. So I'll just put here sample, because that's all this is, sample 12, just to make it unique. Paste that text in there. I change it to Jane. Everything else, oh boy. Okay, I'd have to copy over all this as well, the choices. I have to make one of them a good, there we go, and save the changes. So I've now added a new question, and I'm going to move it up to that spot, and then I'm going to delete the question from the original quiz, yes. So I've now changed the quiz without changing that question, not changing it in any other courses. So that was the last question from before, and I think my next slide is Q&A. So I'm going to open up here again, and I'm going to check the chat.